Okay, come on, buddy. Okay, there we go. All right, let's see if I can switch sources. Oh, it's one screen. Hopefully the other two catch up. Let's see. All right, perfect. And everything just keeps trying to open on my laptop. All right. I just went ahead and shared the link to that live stream. Are you two planning to follow along at all?
Getting something set up in basically right now, but I'll try and listen along.
Like I'll try to. I mean, like I'll definitely be listening, but I'm not sure how much I can like actually follow along since like last time was like just listening.
Well, if you want to, the file should be on there if you want to, you just want to get it up real quick. And it should be on announcements, I can help you get stuff together. It's relatively simple. Otherwise, if you need a 2.7 for me to pause so you can help at times, that's no problem as well.
Were you able to find that thing on GitHub? I guess no problem. I want to make sure it's actually still valid. I can't remember how long those things last.
I got it.
Nice. Hello. Hey.
Do you guys follow along with the tutorial? Did I read here last time? Yes. Oh. That take a little while to turn in spaces. Yeah, there's no need to do the live stream this time unless you want to, so we actually have to copy series now. Hello. You want to talk on the floor, or you just good chill?
I don't think my,
I am right there.
I don't think my guitar was up and running the way that it needs to be.
Mhm.
I'm kind of just here to vibe. I
Gotcha.
have programming I want to do.
Mhm.
I'm in the nerd ambiance. Yes. Yeah, it was really just a continuation of the one. I think on that one places too soon. I didn't actually. They do. I arrived like 2 or 3 minutes late, but I like people got there later than me and they could stop on the stage and they did attendance. I need to put it in my, I need to finish the reviews of the selection. There's so, like, there's so easy that I did like 4% and I thought I wasn't very good because just easy. Yeah, I like half, was half focusing. I was like half focusing and I got 4 done in my last one. So I just like, alright.
Nice. Well, we wait a few more minutes for people to come in. Anyone else besides me know when lose power over that little storm?
Yeah, I lost it for a bit.
We didn't have working.
Oh. I hope you get blankets.
Yeah, we didn't lose power. Our thermostat had just been broken for like a week and nobody actually got anything to fix it.
I don't think I've turned on my heat like ever since I just turned on the fire alarm last time, so I haven't tried it since. Hello.
Hey,
I mean, it'll probably do that the first time you have it running because it's something burning just because it hasn't been used, but if it shouldn't do that past the first like hour or two. Ours always, ours smelled like it was burning when we first turned it on as well.
I just don't trust the electrical in my apartment anyway.
Did you just not have?
I have blankets.
Yeah, it was like, I think we had like a little bit of emergency heat or something like that, where it was just warm because we were always home. But it was like easily about 50 degrees in the circuit area and stuff like that. It was not fun.
Also, do you plan to call on this time or are you just doing?
I've got some stuff to work on, but I want to get coming out.
Gotcha, no problem.
All right. So since it's 7, I'll go ahead and get us started. So last time, I'll show what we were able to get working, which is just a little spaceship that you can get around your screen that follows your mouse. You have your little background objects that scroll around you. And that's just the very, very basics of what we're going to try and get finished today. Because the first thing we'll need to do is we'll need to redo one small thing I did before. So if you go back to like your background objects, I'll just illustrate what I'm talking about real quick. You'll notice when we set our speed for these guys, we just use like a flat 100 for like you're changing that position every so often. But let's say in your game, you might want to change it like the speed of like the objects around the player or really anything like that. So like simulate your player maybe going like faster or slower or something like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our globals over here. Then we're going to make a new variable for our player speed. And we're just going to go ahead and set that guy to 100 like how we had before. And then we're just going to go back to our background object script. And where we had that 100 over here, we're just going to delete that guy and do globals dot player speed. And that's going to come in useful for some other stuff later. So with that done, I'm going to now move on to starting to add bullets for the player to actually shoot out. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and make a new scene. I'm going to do other node. I'm going to make it a character body like how we've done for our player. I'll switch to 2D so we can see what's going on there. And do you need to show again what I just did, or are you all good? And I'm going to rename this guy to just Bullet. And he just needs a few things underneath him. He needs an animated sprite 2D. Hello. Do you plan to follow along, or you just watching it?
Follow along here.
Gotcha. Do you have the file from the end of the last meeting?
You get no file? Yeah, I do.
All right. So if you just get that pulled up, all I've done is like one small little script change I'll show you real quick again.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll just continue on from there. So while we're doing that, I guess I'll use the time to explain that little script change a bit more. So by using that player speed as like a global instead of just like on some random number you pull out of there, you don't like get, so you actually know what you're referring to when you put that like magic number in there. But also it means you can have like a lot more variability what stuff are like moving at certain speeds in your level. So you might want your enemies, for instance, to like based on the player's speed. So that instead of them all having a set speed, if your player's going faster, then your enemies are coming towards you faster, your level speed and you're just going towards you faster. So
I got mine there, so what I do again? Sorry.
Good. Let's see. So I can see it last time. So I'll show you real quick. If you go to your own global script, you should be able to find it like around here or down on here. You're going to add a new variable up there called player speed and set that equal to 100.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
And then go to your background object script from last time.
All right.
And you're going to go down to, you should have, in yours, you'll have like 100 here times delta. Do you see that? So replace that 100 with that globals.player speed.
What? 100 times delta. Yeah, I see. Like,
Yeah, so make it like this instead.
player speed. Okay.
Because now you're referencing that global variable instead. So it's no longer a magic number. It's actually like a real value you can mess with as well and know what it is.
Okay.
And in this case, you can have it so all your objects, when they're coming towards you, they're all based on your player's speed. So instead of your player moving, it's all like I'm changing the like speed of everything around the player. All right. So with that little change, the only other thing I did is I made a new scene. I added a character body to that. So I'll just simulate it over here. You go to other node, type in character body. It'll pop up there and you do create. And then I just added a animated sprite underneath it. And then in addition to that animated sprite, I'm going to go ahead and add a area 2D. And underneath that area 2D, I'm going to add a collider or collision shape 2D.
Sorry, and then you go back and say like create new tab and
Let me see what we have on yours just to make sure I use the right terminology.
I just created a new one. So.
Yeah. And then go to other node.
Okay.
And then start type of character. And your character body, you're create that guy.
Yeah.
So create. There you go. And then you can right click on that guy and then do add child node and do the same thing to add your animated sprite 2D, your area 2D, and then you're going to add a collision shape 2D underneath that area 2D. So it should look like this organization-wise. And the reason we'll have these is your character body 2D is what actually handles your movement of the bullet. And you want to use that because that actually comes with inbuilt functions for all your like movement based on velocity.
All right, so collision
shape 2D and a challenge out of area 2D.
And your animated sprite 2D is actually displaying your bullet. And we also are using animated sprite 2D not just because it lets you pull from the sprite sheet, but you can use this bullet for multiple different types of bullets. Maybe you want to make some that are like far larger, but with a different sprite. This way, all you gotta do is make a different frame in there. And then your area 2D, which I don't think we've talked about yet, that's a way of detecting other objects. Because when you add a collider to that, you can make it so to detect everything that goes inside that little area.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and go to my animated sprite 2D. I'm going to go to sprite frames, make a new one. And like before, I'm going to go down to that little grid option there to get frames from a sprite sheet. Open up that guy. Go change the size to 32 by 32. And then I'm just going to grab the 2 bullets down here. Or you can just grab one if you're just going to use this as a one-time thing. But I'm doing 2 so you can see how you can mess around with that. So now we have 2 different frames of bullets we can use. So if you wanted to have a different type of bullet for a different enemy, all you have to do is change your frame number, and they can just have that different bullet there. So I'm just going to leave it on this guy. And that's our sprite taken care of. Next, we're going to go to our area. Well, really, I guess the collision shape for the area. And I'm going to go and make it a circle. And you want to make it a smaller circle. I would just like size it however you feel is right, because you're just trying to make a basic collider for your bullet. But I wouldn't make it a rectangle because you don't want it to be too aggressive, or else the player might feel kind of cheated if they get hit by it just barely. So sometimes we do small circles like this, and it feels relatively fair to the player. Yes.
I will say an alternate solution often employed by bullet hell devs is to just make the ship's hitbox really tiny.
True.
So if you want to go that route.
But once you get all those in, that's really all you're doing inspector-wise for this. The rest of your bullet stuff is going to be based on scripting. Actually, yeah, we'll have to do one smaller thing, but I'll go ahead and here first. So when you have your bullet selected, you're going to do attach a new script in. Are you both all caught up?
I'm a bit on the collision.
Oh, it's all good.
Like I did add the change for the animated sprite 2D.
Let me double check. Make sure I get this right for you.
Is that supposed to be it for me?
Yeah, that's all good for you animated. And then let's check for the shape. Oh yeah. So all you can do here is you can go click on that guy, and click on the neighborhood itself. This guy.
Good one.
Yep. And then you can change the radius of it. So I think mine is a bit smaller, maybe like 2 or something.
Like 2 radius.
Yeah, you just want it pretty small, so it's like not bigger than your bullet itself.
Okay.
Let me double check. Okay, that's all good. And I think Alex, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you plan to follow along, or you just watch?
I mean, I can probably like watch
Mhm.
the live stream to catch up, but you can go ahead.
So with all this basic setup done for a bullet, we're going to go make a script for it. So with bullet selected, I'm going to go attach a new script. Then I'm just going to call it bullet script. The name doesn't really matter. And we're going to add a few things here. Make sure we'll get this right. So first we're going to... Oh. Do you have, if you have bullet selected, you can either, there's a script thing up here. It's going to be like a scroll looking thing with like a green thing on it. Or you can right click on it.
Okay, I see it.
All right.
That's good.
Good. And when you're in there, like after you make your script, I'm first doing a variable called team. I'm just going to first set that to null. Or you could set to like a certain type of team, like I'll show real quick here. This will be for like player or enemy. Those can be the 2 values of it. And then damage equals 1. Speed equals, and we'll say like 500 equals 0. Oh, we won't touch on that guy just yet. So I'm going to make one quick function and then I'll explain a bit. Velocity equals vector 2. Speed cosine rotation speed times sine of not that there. Rotation. And we're going to take our image sprite 2D frame equal frame. Okay, and I'll explain all this real quick. So those four basic variables up there, your team one is like just to keep track of what team this bullet originates from, so that it doesn't just like immediately kill the team it came from, it like when it gets fired. Then you have damage, that's kind of self-explanatory, it's how much damage your bullet will do on contact. Your speed, kind of self-explanatory again, is how much speed your bullet will have. And then your frame, that's gonna be like the frame of that animated sprite, which there are other ways to do this. I just keep it as a variable on like the main script up here. And then in that function down there, I just propagate it down to the animated sprite 2D. So that little line makes sense there. Then you have your velocity. I'm setting that based on the rotation of the bullet, instead of just having it as like a set rotation either like up or down. Because you might want to have in your game like an enemy fall off to the side can shoot at you, or like it shoots like wildly off from like different angles. So this way you can have like bullets in any direction you really want, instead of having to mess around some other ways. But if you were to use it right off the bat, all your bullet would do is just like change like its frame. It wouldn't actually move quite yet, since we need to add a little physics function. And we're going to have to call move and slide. So move and slide is what we're going to need to actually make our bullet move. But we also want to make sure our bullet doesn't just go on forever. So position.y, if it's greater than globals dot screen size dot y/2, or position.y less than globals screen size dot y/2. Oh. And we're just going to make that do Q3. Okay. And this if statement here, it basically checks if either your like y position is greater than the screen size, or if it's less than. And if it is, it queues to free up this node. So freeing it essentially just deletes that node. So that's an easy way to make sure your bullets just don't like take up all your memory. Oh yes.
Oh, sorry, this was from last week.
Mhm.
Can you show me how to add the global script as like a global?
Oh yeah. So if you want to add a global script, all you got to do is go to your project settings, and then you'll see a little globals tab there. And to make your global script in the first place, type in a name up here for like what you want to call it. Then just click add, and it'll go over there. And to open it up, you just got to click on the little folder thing there, or just open up the script manually. Does that make sense? No problem. All right. So with all that, we actually have a bullet that will move and despawn. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this scene real quick. So I'm going to call it bullet. But right now, we don't actually have a way to shoot our bullet. So are you guys all caught up?
Wait.
Hmm? If it would help, it's also just behind you. Oh, hang on. Let me also zoom in real quick. I forgot I had this zoomed out. Okay. Is that much easier to read now?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I forgot what I say about my script again.
They save automatically, like whenever you play the game or save like a scene. So just save your scene, like right click on your scene you have right now and do save scene as, and you can name it.
See now.
Perfect. So with all that, we're going to make it so our player can actually use those bullets. So we're going to switch back over to our player's script. And we have a few changes to make over here. So let's see. I'm actually going to go ahead and give our player health so we don't forget about that, because we are going to start adding a way to get damaged. And then I'm also going to make it so it keeps track of the player's team, which is kind of self-explanatory. It's just going to be player. And I'm also going to add another thing for bullet object. And that's going to be load. And you should be able to type in your bullets. Nope. There you go. So health and team are kind of self-explanatory based on before. Your bullet object is basically loading up that scene that we have from before, so you can reference it and use it to instantiate into like various bullets. So Now that we have that all set, we're going to go ahead and add a bit of code so we can actually spawn in those bullets. Which, let me see. See, one thing we need to do real quick is we need to actually define a way to know when our player is wanting to shoot. So we could hard code that in as a mouse click, or alternatively, are you guys all caught up?
I'm sorry, can you just say that again one more time?
Are you guys all good?
Like the one before that,
I was going to say, in order to actually shoot our bullet, we'll need a way to know what key the player is pressing, or particularly like which key corresponds to shooting. So if you guys are caught up, I'm going to go to project settings up here again. And this I'm going to input map. And this is where you can add different types of inputs that can be like referenced as like a name rather than the actual key you're pressing. So in this case, I'm going to make one called shoot. So you just type it over here, do add, and that puts it over here as an action you can reference. But you need to assign your keys to it. So you go to this plus sign for add event, and you got to like click in there. So if you click in there, it'll detect it's a mouse click, and you can just add that in. Or if you want any other keys, you can go ahead and like use that plus, press whatever key you want corresponding to shooting. So if you want it to be like space, you can also do that, maybe enter or whatever you prefer. You just need some sort of key there. Are you guys all good?
like I do the shit. I'm sorry.
Mhm. No, that's all good.
I'm behind on the present part. Put shit in there, so
Oh, it's just, we gotta do it, we want to have to do it. Add new action.
this one.
Yeah.
Wait, put shit on there or
Or whatever you want. I'll call it shoot, so it's easier to know what it's called. And then you click add next to that, so you have that as an action you can reference. You got it.
I just pressed that. So.
Oh, okay. Let's see. This one.
There we go.
Let's shoot. Oh, because it's filtered out voice. So, you can roll. There we go. And then, figure out why yours.
Oh, yeah, you think it's on.
Oh, okay, perfect. We're gonna go to plus. There you go. Click, open that. I'll click on box. There you go. Now goes to the left mouse button, and then you're just gonna do okay. And there you
Alright, so this close now.
Yep, you can go ahead and close this guy. You can use it for other actions in the future, but we're just going to need that for shoot for this tutorial. So we're going to do if input dot is action. I believe we're going to do pressed actually. So you can hold down for shooting, shoot, and can shoot. Then we're gonna immediately set can shoot to false. Because that's to make sure we have like a little bit of an interval between shooting, so it's not just a constant like a giant laser beam or something, which that might be cool, but also it's going to be very laggy.
We'll probably implement it as power up later on.
True. Actually, I'm going to go back to my player. All right. In range, and we're going to do 0 to gunpoint stop. Let's get child count. There we go. New bullet equals bullet object dot instantiate. New bullet dot position equals gun points dot get child I dot global position. Okay, I'm just going to grab this guy. This is when we didn't set all the variables in there. Make it so it's just the first frame. We're going to set the rotation equals our player's rotation. The team equals our player's team. And then we're going to do another little thing I'll explain in a moment called modulate. We're going to do color. All right. And with this little color thing here, you can change the color of your bullet because the basic bullet's white. So whatever color you give it here with modulate, which is like just changing the color of it, it will change to whatever color that is. And if you want to choose your color, just simply click on this little black square here and change it to whatever you want it to be. There you go. And when you get all that, we're going to get our parent. We're going to do add child, new bullet.
All right, and I'll go ahead and explain all this. So, because we have multiple gun points on our player for like where our bullets can come from, instead of just hard coding it in for all those, we're keeping it nice and modular, where we just get how many gun points we have, we loop through all those, to add new bullets to each of them. So, instantiating is also how you make those new bullets based on like a script you already, a scene you already have. Our position is just taken from those gun points over there. Then your frame, rotation, and team are kind of self-explanatory. Your frames are like based on type of bullet. Meanwhile, your rotation and your team are just based on your player. Then modulate, as mentioned before, just lets you change the color of that bullet. And then to add that bullet to your scene, you gotta go add the bullet as a child to something else. So in this case, we're getting our parent of the player, which should be like our root node of the scene, and we're just adding that bullet. Does that make sense to you all?
I'll give you just a moment. Actually, I'll start doing this. Ooh, whoopsie, that guy should not have came with me over there. So let me see. And the one small thing you'll notice here is that because we're turning off that can shoot variable every time, we do now need a way to actually reload, which we're going to handle real quick. We're going to add a function just called reload. And all it does is just await, get tree.create timer. I'm going to give it like a 0.2 timeout. And that all it does is change your can shoot back to true. And right here, it's going to call a reload.
Okay. So whenever like we change that can shoot to false, we want to make sure we call that reload function to change it back to true after that amount of time. So that 0.2 seconds in there, in that timer you create just for that, you can change that however you want. You can even make that based on a variable for different weapons. But for the time being, I'm just keeping it as a 0.2. So that's a relatively simple way to get like a basic reload for that going.
And if we go into our main scene now,
Do you have that all typed up?
Almost.
It's all good. If you guys want to have it typed up, if you go ahead and play your main game scenes again, you should be able to shoot bullets now. Oh, okay. So you see how that guy's indented by twice? You gotta put it back in because your functions can't be indented under your other functions. You have to one more time here still.
Okay.
So I think it should be good now. So I'll double check. Like this should be enough to make us actually see bullets.
so I'll try it on my end. Let's make sure I'm not just forgetting something. Yeah, so you should be able to see bullets shoot out like this when you like either click or hold your left mouse button. Are any of you guys having issues? All right. But that gets us some basic bullets. But as it stands right now, we don't actually have anything to shoot with those bullets. But luckily, that's not too hard to do. So we're going to go ahead and add in some asteroids as their enemies. So are you guys all set for me to make a new scene real quick for our asteroids? All right. So similar to our bullet, it's going to be a character body 2D. I'm going to rename it to asteroid so I know what it is. I'm going to switch to 2D so it's a bit easier to keep track of. Then animated sprite 2D. And then unlike before, we're going to actually give it a collision shape. You might have seen before your bullet was kind of asking you to give it one, but it's not required for character bodies. It's just sometimes better if you want to actually collide with anything. And we're also going to edit area. All right, so like before, we're going to first go to our animated sprite 2D. We're going to go to sprite frames, make a new sprite frames, go to there, and then go back to our sprite sheet. And we should have, okay, it looks like 7 asteroids. So we just grab those guys. And oh, I'm also gonna go quickly to my I think was texture, change that to nearest so it looks a little bit better, but that's up to you if you want to change that to be nearest under texture like before. Next, I'm gonna go to my Clemson shape 2D for my asteroid. I'm gonna go to circle, and I'm just gonna increase it just a bit so it matches the asteroid. And then we're also gonna add one for our area 2D. And really, the main thing you want to do for this guy is you just want to be a bit bigger than your asteroid. Well, I mean, your collision shape 2D for your asteroid is basically your collision shape for the asteroid right there. That's for actually getting hit, like the asteroid getting hit by bullets and stuff. Meanwhile, your area 2D around it is for actually detecting if it hits the player. So we just want to be a little bit bigger so you have some space in between there. And I'm going to go ahead and save this real quick for as we're working. All right. But that should be all we need for inspector stuff right now. So do you guys have all that part set up real quick?
Like, have we not touched the scripts of it?
Not just, I'm just about to go and do a script for my asteroid. So I'll do that right now. Attach script, asteroid script. There we go. And first we're going to set its team. We're going to make that be enemy. And then damage equal 1. Our speed is going to be, we're going to grab the player speed, and we're going to add or subtract a little bit using a randomization function. It's going to be between like -20 and 50. And we're going to add like always like 20 at a minute, which definitely you could actually put in there. Never mind. You know what? And I'll leave it like that. You could just add that 20 to your -20 and 50 in there and get the same effect. I forgot about that. Frame, similar to before, you're actually going to make that a randomized thing. But make sure when you do your randomized functions for these guys that they're randi range and not randef range. Because this way they're integers, which you really need to be for your frame to work right. And then, okay, let me see. We don't want to do that just yet. Health equal 1. And then here we go, a small thing that'll just be nice to see. We're going to add rand f range 0.05, 0.05. Okay. So we're just adding a bit more randomization to our asteroids that are a little bit more interesting instead of just going one big blob. Then we're going to go to ready. Take our velocity. And similar to like what we did for the bullet, you can even just copy and paste the thing if you want. Or take our speed and do it times cosine of our rotation. And speed times sine of our rotation. Then we're also going to take that frame and we're going to set that as what our frame is there. And we're also going to make it so our rotation itself is a little bit randomized. Oops. Range, do 0, 2 times pi. So that way you can do like a full 360 all around itself for rotation. Physics process, or do move inside again like before. And but we're also going to add a little rotate thing. We're going to grab our rotation speed. And if, actually, you know what? I'm just going to do what I mentioned before. I'm going to go, hey, I want you, go here. Just going to copy and paste that guy. Except if I recall correctly, we want to get rid of the negative y component just so it doesn't like delete itself when it spawns in, depending on how you do it. Because the asteroids should always be going down. They should not be going up. All right. And okay. So right now, this basic script would actually spawn in our asteroids, make them go down the screen and like rotate a little bit. but they actually need a way to be detected and be destroyed when they get hit or if they hit you. So to do that, we got to actually go ahead and mess around with our bullet a little bit. So do you have that script all done?
I'm
Yeah, it's all good. Because we added those areas into a few things before, if you recall. Now we need to actually go ahead and utilize those. So what we'll be doing is we'll go back to our bullet. We're going to make it so that area can actually tell our script if it's something's entering it, so we can then deal damage to stuff. All right, you all set?
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to switch up back over to our bullet. And instead of making a function from scratch, go ahead and click on Area 2D. And then to your right, you'll see Node next to Inspector. Click on that. And then you should see a thing that says Body Entered. This is for signals. That's how you connect different nodes to each other for scripts. So I'm going to click on Body Entered. I'm going to right click on that, do Connect, and then I'm going to actually go to your okay, never mind. Do it while you're in your bullet. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. So go to bullet as the scene, click on your Area 2D, and it's like I said before, go to Body Entered, right click, and then connect that up to your bullet script by just making sure it goes to bullet. And now you have a new function down there that only activates when something enters that area that you made before. And they'll also tell you what body's entering it. So that way you can get also your position or team and all that of your stuff that's entering there. So with that, we're going to do if body.team does not equal this guy's team, then it's going to take away health from that body based on the damage. It's also going to call a function in there that's called damaged, which we'll have to define our player and our asteroid. Then we're going to make a new object. Actually, okay, sorry. Ignore that part. I'm going to show you some interesting particle effects you can do later, but we don't need that quite yet. So really all we need to do here is just queue free. So this way, when your bullet hits something, it takes away health from that object. It tells that object has been damaged, so it can go ahead and do some code based on that. And then it also destroys the bullet itself because it's already hit something. It doesn't need to keep going. And let me see. I think first we'll add that to the player because the player it's relatively simple. Because the player will have its own version based on getting hit by asteroids. You all set?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to switch back over to player script. No need to go to your player itself because we're not doing the same thing here. So after your reload function, make sure you have its own line, not indented at all. We're just going to make one called damaged. And all the player needs to do is just check if its health is less than or equal to 0. And if it is, it's going to print a little thing in here that just says that you died, because we don't want to handle the end game stuff right now. We just want to make sure at least you know that all if you're even losing health or anything. So that's all the player's going to need. And I'm going to actually grab this so I have the same function to do in a bit. Do you have that function typed out?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
All right, so go back to asteroid. Make sure you're in the scene as well because we're going to do a similar thing here. Because I'll make sure I get this all done real quick. We're going to go to Area 2D and make sure you have this guy selected here under asteroid. Go to your body entered like before and connect that guy up to your asteroid.
I am not do that. Sorry.
Oh, it's all good. Click on your Area 2D up here under asteroid. Go over to your right under signals. So go to node, signals, and then you should see body entered. You'll right click on that guy and do connect and just make sure it goes to your asteroid.
I got that. Either down. I'm good for this.
It's all good. Let me make sure I'll double check this there.
Let's see. So we have that. So let's go. Let's go to looking shape. We're going to do like the shape. Go there, do like a circle. Yeah. Now for that to here, so you might do it. It should be just one note. We usually don't combine. Scroll down real quick.
Again,
Damien, would it be possible you can help real quick? Because I don't know where his nose tab went. Yeah, I haven't seen this before. Because in the Spectre, there's no like nose. Are you guys good? Like, you guys do see a nose there, right? Oh, and are you also doing it? Or, oh, it doesn't have nose or history. I've never seen it here.
That's one. That's no.
So he should do a few ways. We can choose the layout or go.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. There you go. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, and so what do I press it?
So you're going to go to body enter, right click on that guy.
And you're going to make sure it connects up to your asteroid. Because with that guy, actually, we're going to go ahead back to our bullet thing real quick. I'm just going to copy and paste this code from here. So take that, go back over here, copy and paste that guy. So let me double check. That's pretty much all we need here. Yeah, that's all this guy needs. He essentially just functions as like a bullet of him, of himself, but he can also be shot at. In fact, to make him get shot at, all we're going to do is func damaged. Then if health is less than or equal to 0, then it's going to queue free.
So with this, that area 2D body entered thing, that's just what detects that player goes in there. Make sure it's actually a player, not something else. It does damage to the player, and then it tells the player has been damaged and destroys itself.
And damage is just the thing for the asteroid to make sure it takes damage and can destroy itself as well. So with all that, if we go to our main game and we run that real quick. Oh, wait, whoops, sorry, I forgot about that. We need to actually add a way to spawn in our asteroids. So I'll do that real quick. We're going to add another script to our main game. So if you go back to main game, that scene, then go to that main game node. I'm going to go ahead and add a script. Go. And I'm going to make sure I get this guy right. It's a little bit of code. All right. So level, stage, enemies. So this is going to be like what we use to keep track of like the enemies being like flung at us like in different waves. So first we're going to refer to like what type of enemy, in this case is an asteroid. Then how many we want to come at us at once, in this case 3. How many in total in that set of waves, in this case 30. And then how the time interval between them in terms of seconds, in this case 2 seconds. And then I'm going to make another wave of those. You can just keep adding waves in the same sort of formula. So I'm going to make one that's like a waves of 10, and then they keep going for 100, and they have 3 apart. There we go. So we got to keep track of the current enemies done. Equals 0. Stage equals 0. Then we need to at least make sure we know what our asteroid looks like. So load asteroid. Ready. And we're first going to await get tree.create timer. And we're going to grab that big old thing here. We're going to reference that first slot and go to that first set of times. Timeout. And then we're going to call a function called enemy spawner that's going to just keep like running perpetually. Func enemy spawner. Then if current enemy's done is more than or equal to level stage enemies, get the stage that we're on now, and then the total that's in that stage, and we're going to increase that stage by 1. If stage is less than length of that big old thing, then we're going to match that guy. Stage, I believe, wait. Yeah, stage, and then we're going to reference that first slot there. I'll explain all this after I finish typing this like function out. In range 0. Let's see, this guy. And grab stage 1. Current is done plus 1. And spawn asteroid. I believe we want to be right here. Get tree, create timer, level stages, stage 3, timeout. Okay, so we'll need to add one more function for actually spawning the asteroids. But to explain the layout of all this, I'll scroll back up, or I'll just zoom out. There we go. So level stage anything similar, like I mentioned before, that's what keeps track of all your waves. So that's an array of arrays. The smaller arrays having like the function, like the stuff on each wave. So asteroids with the enemies or whatever in that wave. The 3, for instance, that first one is like how many spawn each of those smaller waves in there. The 30 is like how many enemies totally spawn at least. And then that 2 is like the time between each of those spawns. And then current enemies done is just for keeping track of how many enemies have been spawned in that wave. Stage is for like keep track of that entire array. And then asteroid is just for referencing that asteroid seems to be spawned in. Your ready is just simply waiting a little bit to spawn in for that first wave. And then that spawner function will just keep spawning over and over, at least as long as there's still stages in there. So that first if statement in there is just for making sure, like if you've already gone through all the enemies in there, that it just goes to the next stage. And as long as there's more stages, then it's going to reference and see like what it's calling for in there. So like call the associated function how many times. So for instance, because it's an asteroid, it's just going to go, okay, for how many asteroids we want to spawn in there, we're going to increase that current enemies done. It's going to keep track of how many has been done. And then we're going to do that spawn asteroid function for actually spawning in the asteroids on your screen. And then we just have this await thing for that timer just between these waves, and then enemy spawner to loop that whole thing. So it's a little bit weird, but the thing is like you're sort of thing managing the actual enemy spawning and all that. So you guys got all that?
Still,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Do you at least have everything down to here?
yeah.
Because I'm just going to add that little asteroid function real quick. Spawn asteroid. New object equals asteroid instantiate. New object position. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back over to my background object script, and I'm just going to kind of just grab this guy here because that's a pretty useful line of code that I don't want to retype. So I'm just grabbing that big guy for all the randomization of the background objects. So I'm taking that, but let me double check. Instead of randomizing the Y position, you just want to make sure it's always going to be, I'll show real quick. It's going to be that negative y divided by 2. So just grab that big old vector 2 expression from your background object script, set that in your position, and then just get rid of that big y part and just make it so the y component is just the global screen size of y divided by 2. Make sure it's the negative. That's all just so, actually, I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see it all. That's also our asteroids spawn in like random positions along the x, always at the top. There we go. And we just gotta give them their rotation because they'll know that they're enemies. I didn't figure there's a reason to have friendly asteroids in this game, but if you want to, you could add that ability. And then we're gonna do a new little thing, call deferred. And so because you might be adding a lot of these at once, depending on how you make this, we're doing a call deferred. So that's what you do. Like if you're doing a bunch of those all at once, the Godot does not really like that. So if you do call deferred, it like knows how to like stagger those a bit better. All right. And for those of you that have this done, I'll double check real quick. This should be enough that your asteroids can spawn in. They might take a moment. I'm just going to double check. Yeah, so the asteroids spawn in, you can shoot them, and they will do damage to you if you hit them. All right. So if you have that done, you should be able to see that. But the last thing we're going to do in the sort of like 10 or so minutes we have left, if you guys are all good, I want to do a little particle effect so we can actually see explosions when we shoot those asteroids for a little bit more feedback. So I'll make sure I have all this stuff. Yep. So for those following along, is everyone good? All right, I'll go ahead and do this guy. Utter node. It's going to be GPU particles. You can do CPU particles as well, but GPU is just generally much more performant. I'm going to switch to 2D because you really want to see how your particles turn out. And let me double check. So I'm just going to call it real quick, explosion particles. I'm going to go to my inspector view. I'm going to make a new texture that's just going to be, let's say, gradient 2D. Open up that guy, go to fill. Usually it's linear. We want to change that to radial. Go in here. Now we need to change up this guy a little bit. So let's change that black to more of, let's say like an orangish. Let's make sure it's a little bit transparent. Then this guy is going to be completely transparent. You want those to be like black, so it goes with the background. And we want to make it so it's a bit smaller. It's like a smaller sort of particle. And let's make it so it's like 16 by 16. Because we don't want our explosion particles to be too big. But at least when it comes to particles, it's very free form. I'm just using this gradient to make a very basic little particle looking thing. But you could do that. You could do noise textures as well. Those take a bit longer to set up. But you can try doing this little basic gradient where it's all just, you want to make sure you fill it radially. That's the main thing you need to do there. And change its size. And then next, I'm going to go on down to the time. I'm going to change it to 0.5 because I don't want our particles to last too long. I'm going to make it a one shot because it's an explosion. It should not keep looping. And then for explosiveness, I'm going to make it a 0.95 so they don't quite go off all at once, but most of the time they do. That's all good there. And then we're going to go down to process material, make that a particle process material. It gives us a bunch of options there. All we're going to do is go to our angle. I'm going to just make it so that's however many angles we can. We're going to give it some starting velocity. I believe for that, we want 280. We want a max of 300. There we go. Give it as much spread as you can. And then we're going to go down to acceleration. We're going to double the gravity because you want to kind of like act like the player's going past. So we want there actually be sort of gravity. It's not proper gravity, but it's just make it so the particles, they'll explode out, but then like drift past you as if you're speeding past them. And then with all that, a few small things I'm going to do. I'm just going to do scale, go to scale curve, make a curve. Curves are relatively simple. You just mess around in there. When I do scale curves for particles, I just make it like a bump, something like that. And now, if I turn this on, see them a little bit. I'm just going to make it so this guy doesn't turn like that so soon. There. Now I'm just going to turn up to like, let's say 14 particles. There we go. So that's our particles, explosion particles. Are any of you guys still following along this far? All right. Like with the particles, it's again very free form. I've just gotten used to it. Really, the main things you just need to do is mess around with the velocity to get it kind of high there. Add a little bit of the acceleration. Otherwise, like it will then look like an explosion as long as you put something there for it to actually see.
Okay, what kind of, we did explosion particles again?
So I did GPU particles. CPU is an option, but sort of like I mentioned, that's usually not the most performant.
Okay.
And then all the way at the top, I changed them to a 14. If you go to texture, so you'll like right click on it to make a new one. I did gradient texture 2D. So you should see it right here. There's like a bunch of different options. I just did gradient texture 2D.
Sorry, that was I press again to get that matters?
Mixture. Let's see. I'll accept it.
I mean, okay.
So change your amount to like 14 or something like that.
And then go to texture right here. Make that like a gradient texture. I would say just make gradient texture 2D. Whoops, oh no, that wasn't my bad. There. Make a gradient texture 2D. You'll get some options here. Then you'll want to go on down to the fill option, change that to radial, and make your width and height 16.
You mess around the colors in there if you want. You just have to.
Texture 2D.
Yep.
And okay, so and let's go ahead and make it up. I'm not.
Go down to your fill option real quick and make sure that's radial.
Okay, really, got it.
Yep. Then move, I would say your black one in the middle. So like it looks like it's radiating out. And then change your black one to like a red or orange or something. Just like double click on your color down here in this guy. And it lets you change your colors all around. You can change like your red values, your green, all that, and change your alpha. You just want something so like it looks sort of explosion like. And then you add like a width and height of 16.
Let me check on this line. It's all good. It takes I was trying to show you more for the fun thing. So let's change width and height to 16.
Okay.
Press enter. There you go. And then click on that point there. And drag it to the middle. There you go. So that's radiating out.
Okay.
And click on that one gradient in here. Then you can change the color. Double click on this. Now you can change that to like a red or something.
Alright.
And then you just like click out of there. Let's drag. Here's whatever you want for your explosion. That's also fine. And then just make it so that right down here. Double click on that.
Okay.
Good. Now we're going to just drag this all the way down to black. And change this alpha all the way to green. So that way it becomes like a user green. There you go. So let's just see if something. And then you're good on your gradient for now. Yeah. So scroll a bit up and you can just close that guy real quick.
Like if you scroll, you should just see texture right here. Click on it again, that closes that out. I'd say just change your explosiveness to like around 1, and then click on one shot that's under time. So you see one shot here, turn that on. Then explosiveness here, turn it to like 0.95 or just like to 1, something around there.
So that lifetime is going to be fine for now, or you can use 0.5, third, and then good, and then turn on one shot. And then you're gonna want to turn your explosiveness here all the way up. There you go. So we'll just keep yours like that just for now so we can move forward. At least that'll give you something. Then we'll make a quick script for this guy. I'll call it explosion script. I'm going to go to my node here. So you'll need to do your inspector thing before where you go to editor. I believe my thing is a little bit different. So you'll go to like your editor thing and you should be able to get back to your inspector thing real quick again. Sorry, not inspector, node to add finished. That's just so you can get rid of your particles so it doesn't take up all your memory. And we're going to add actually a ready. That's just going to say your emitting equal to true. There you go. Save that guy. Then I'm just going to real quick edit it to our asteroids. So var explosion equal load explosion particles. And then whenever it gets damaged, var equals instantiate. Then new object dot position equals its position. Right. Yep. And then we're just going to grab the parent. Add child. There we go. These three lines are all you need to add those wherever. So I'll just demonstrate real quick what that would do, because this should make it. So let's see. I'm looking for those asteroids. There you go. If I shoot them, I now have explosions. And if I get hit by them, it should, there you go. There's also an explosion. So that's a way to get some basic feedback, which is those little particles. There you go. All right. So sorry, I just speed up through that a little bit there. So do you need to show anything else real quick to help you get all that?
I don't know, like, kind of off from that one still. I think I need to get much of the last time. So.
Yeah, that's no problem. Because, yeah, it'd just be two functions here. You want me to pull up real quick so you can see them?
Yeah.
All right. So I'll go here. That's what I have for that guy. And I'll zoom in real quick. Well, otherwise, that's at least everything I planned for this little tutorial. I hope to do a bit more UI stuff, but I just realized we'll make this one game of time. But that's at least it for this guy. Does anyone else have any issues with it or anything you want to see in the future? All right. Well, I guess you guys have gotten what you want from that, and I think we're all good for today. I don't know if we have a club behind us, but we might want to prepare as if we do. So I hope to see you guys next week. Tuesday will be when we have our board game night, which we had originally planned. Since well, as you guys saw, the snow day was a little bit hard to make do. So that'll be next. No, our board game night will be on next Tuesday from 6 to 8. And then we'll have another meeting. I believe that'll be the one Damien will be presenting on procedural generation.
Yeah.
So I hope to see you guys there. I'll go ahead and end the stream.